This is a message to the controlling parents who believe they have a right to do something permanent to their child, mutilating them. And I guess this all goes back to the way how their behavioral natural system works. If you are more on the controlling side, then you probably, by your personality, believe that you have a right to control and do whatever you want to other people, sort of like a police controlling behavior system. And maybe at the same time, which I do believe this makes sense, you would also submissively then believe that other people have a right to do whatever they want to you. While me, I have pretty much some inverted neural brain sectors. Pretty much, I believe that I have a right to do whatever and only whatever to myself, and I don't believe anybody has a right to do whatever they want to me for their own selfish gratification. I probably genetically got this from my parents, why I share a similar personality towards them, and I do not believe that upbringing determines 100% of how your whole brain and how your whole mind works. Though, if I had to guess, probably there's a 60% chance of whatever you do to your child when it comes to certain beliefs like this, your child will probably most likely get your genetic brain and agree with that, just like how a submissive person will defend their mutilation. But you know what? I'm going to say my personal message to parents who assume that all their children are submissive. Maybe they assume that everybody's children are submissive, brainless people who have no free will, and they make their selfish beliefs, ideas, thinking that, oh, whatever I do to my child's going to love it, before they even let the child grow up and develop to see what type of person that child actually grows up into, to know whether, if they share certain personality traits and beliefs, personality beliefs I would call it. Or you can call upbringings beliefs if that's how your brain's more wired. When you say you have the right to circumcise your son, to me, logically, that means you have the right to do whatever you want to your son. But you know what? You're using that word right. I have the right to circumcise my son. How about this? Why don't you explain to me the logic of how that actually works? Personally, I think you're using the wrong word of context. Instead of you saying the sentence of I have the right to, why don't you just simply say something that actually makes sense? Why don't you say, I have the authority to mutilate my child, or, I have the power to circumcise my child. To me, that actually makes logical sense. I think that's how it works. But you know what, let's just say, for instance, you say you have the right to chop off the end of your son's penis. How about, do you have the right to chop off one of your child's fingertips? What would you say to me? I've asked people that, and you know what they said to me? No. If I asked you, do you have the right to stone your child if he misbehaves or she misbehaves, what would you tell me? Would you say, no? In today's modern society? Do you have the right to tattoo your child? What would you say to me? Would you say yes or no? I would really like to know. I'm just so curious, because if you have the right to chop up the parts of his dick, I'm pretty sure by logic then you should have the right to tattoo him if you please, or your daughter, or whatever, specifically for the son. If I asked you, do you have the right to pierce your son's ears or pierce up his body? No, let's just say piercing his ears. Would you sexistly say no, because maybe you would say you have the right to pierce your daughter's ears? But you know what? If you claim that you have the right to mutilate your son's dick, then pretty much To me, logically, you have the right to do whatever you want. So anytime I ask you any questions like this or somebody else, to me, logically, you're going to have to say yes. Because the second you say no, how the hell does that logic works? Now, if you told me that you had the authority to circumcise your child, or you have the power, which is pretty much your quite similar words, then you know what? I understand you. I just wanted your honesty because, to me, that makes a hell of a lot more sense. I appreciate honesty, and I appreciate someone who, when they actually say a sentence, it actually, logically, makes sense to me. You know what? You do have the authority to mutilate your son as you please. In fact, you have the authority, power, whatever you want to call it, to mutilate your daughter. You have the authority to chop off their hand, cut up their finger, and you know what? You can do this. In fact, you can easily, of course, circumcise your son, and you know why you can? You know why you do have the authority? Because you can get away with it. He's this little defenseless, helpless person, and as you can be the bully as you please, and then get away with it and do whatever the hell you want. And it's all due to the fact that he was too young, he's helpless, defenseless, and can't defend himself. You can do whatever you want to your children when you say to me you have the authority to do it. Just like how you have the authority to mutilate your son. If you want to mutilate your daughter in a country where they claim it's illegal, all you simply have to do is just take your child out of the country and then mutilate her. Or maybe you'll do it behind closed door during summertime when she is off from school for 2 months, so that way she can secretly heal inside her house all miserable and sad. Pretty much you can do whatever you want. Let's just say you wanted to chop off his, I don't know, let's say his baby toe, and I guess it's illegal to do that in North America. So therefore, you can just simply leave the country, go to a country where the laws are not the same, and do whatever you want. You can always get away with whatever you want and do whatever you want when you say you have the authority to do it. Now, once again, if you told me you have the right to circumcise your child, anything else I asked you, if you have the right to do to your child, you're going to have to say yes, because that only logically makes sense. So, unless you told me the wrong word, stop saying you have the right to do it. Because clearly, logically, you don't have the right. If you like saying that word for illogical, stupid reasons, because that's just the way how your brain defaultly runs from a lack of high thinking, then fine. But don't expect me to think highly of your sentences that come out your mouth if it's not logically making any sense, especially after I kindly ask you, are you sure you didn't mean to use the word authority or power? Personally, whenever I see parents getting their daughter's ears pierced, it's like they don't have any guilt. They don't feel sad for what they're doing. There's absolutely no guilt. Of course they didn't ask the little girl, did you want your ears pierced? And sometimes, of course, when she's a baby girl, they do it. So, of course, she didn't say anything, but they do it anyways. And it's like there's just this similar type of controlling behavior from parents who pierce up their daughter's ears, just like how they cut up their sons' penises, and then they go off trying to be more righteous with doing one over the other. Basically, not that circumcision can come in anywhere of comparison to piercing somebody's ears, but pretty much when it comes to the individual's right, what happened to that? It works the same simple way. You're permanently doing some kind of body mutilation damage done to the child. It's like, parents are just happy when the girls are crying, getting their ears pierced, and it doesn't affect them at all. It doesn't even bother them. Controlling people like you certainly don't live for consent, and it's like a lot of times you're happy while she's crying doing it. It's just like those Jews when they're celebrating after their child just got mutilated. They're all happy and celebrating that pretty much the child lost up to probably maybe even up to 80% of his sexual pleasure for the rest of his life with a crippled, scarred up dick. It just shows me pretty much from controlling behavior, You do whatever as you please, and then you start using the word right. You have the right to do it. So you know what? If you're an intact adult, whether you're a female or a male, and you had a child, and regardless if you mutilated him or not, but let's just say you believe it's your decision, rather if you mutilate him or not. Now, if your old man or your old woman, your mother, comes to you, and honestly, it doesn't matter how old you are, regardless if you're about the age of 18, or let's say you're even 35, and your dad is about now 67 to 80, it doesn't matter. Regardless of your age, your parents are still your parents. So therefore, if your old man comes to you and just, I don't know, he doesn't even have to ask you, he just pulls you away, grabs you away, with whatever strength he has, and let's say you're still not strong to overpower your old man, and he comes and brings you to the hospital, and your mom's there too, it doesn't matter what you have to say then. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. So therefore, if your parents wants to circumcise you, it's not going to be your choice, and you know what? It's not going to be your right either. And I could just imagine them being at the hospital saying, "Oh, I feel like circumcising my 35-year-old son. I just feel like doing it right now. It's my son and I want to circumcise him. It's my penis." So therefore, submissively, you have to do it. It is not your choice. It seems that you're not the owner of the penis, just like how your little young one wasn't the owner of his penis. So therefore, if you treat your child like a mindless, submissive piece of property, and your parent decides, and let's say, your parents decide to do the same thing back to you, you better shut up and listen to them, because that's the type of crap that you live for, and if someone does it back to you, you better accept it.